Hey there, my gorgeous friends on the internet. Today I'm excited because we're going to make a tier maker on the most popular JavaScript frameworks in 2023. So I'm going to rate them and we're going to have fun with it. Again, it's not serious. Calm down. Don't be a nerd. This is just very subjective, right? I prefer my own stuff. Some people might love other stuff. Doesn't mean a tool is better than the other one. They all of these tools that I'm showing on the list contributed to web development in some way and pushed the technology forward, okay? And again, it's subjective. So some people like pineapple on pizza, fucking weirdos. I don't know how you do it, but it is what it is. If you love it, you love it. Let's get into the list. Oh, the React full stack course is coming out very soon. I'm gonna make an announcement on it and I'll give you a wee sneak peek of how it looks now. And yeah, you can buy it if you are interested in it, and when the update comes out, you'll have it. Alrighty, let's get this list started, shall we? We're gonna go back in time to the 3 most popular frameworks back in the day when DevEd was young and just picking his nose and writing jQuery code, and then he found out about Angular, React, and Vue. So let's have a look at those. Starting off with Angular. Now, the big debacle with Angular was back in the day when they switched over from Angular version 1 to Angular 2. So it was called AngularJS, and they switched over, and then people were so confused and angry, and they didn't know what the fuck was going on. They didn't know if it was Angular, rectangular, or trapezoid. So it was a big issue. But eventually, it kind of settled down, and they started releasing more updates ever since, and it kind of became this big mature framework. Now, where would I put it? Well, there's things I love about it, things I don't. I really loved the fact that they had TypeScript in mind since the beginning, right? So that's pretty cool. The way the files are, like the CLI that Angular has is really good, but I just don't like kind of the model and the style that the code's written in these days, because I feel like these days there's defo loads of better alternatives, especially for a solo developer. I still feel Angular might be good for a bigger team because it's very opinionated with how you write your code, and you have your, like, what's it called, directives, I believe so, where you write ng if, ng model, blah blah, all that shit, right? So it's very specific of how you write Angular code, which is why it's really good in a big team. For a solo developer though, nah, I don't like it as much. And also, like, the the cool thing is that everything's included in it, right? So state management and routing and all that stuff. So that's good about it, but I wouldn't use it, so I'm gonna put it in the C tier list. Boom. Okay, next up, let's talk about React. And let's not forget what React did as well, because loads of people give Angular shite for transitioning over and changing pretty much all the syntax. React kind of did the same, to be fair, when they switched over from class components over to functional components with hooks. So all the packages that you used before in React, well, now are using hooks. So if you were on class components, you're screwed. So if you're angry about Angular, I feel like you should be angry a little bit about React too. But React is great for the simple fact that it's quite simple to use. It essentially just gives you like a library, a view library, to basically, you know, keep your UI in sync with whatever code you have. So it's really nice for that. So the learning curve is much smaller than Angular, in my opinion, because here everything's pretty much better included. But what I didn't like about React is kind of the way it just felt a bit half-assed, the hooks that they implemented when they switched over from like use effect and all the re-render issues and dependency problems that they had there, to the context, which was their native solution for a state management, and it ended up just again causing unnecessary re-renders, which is a shame. So, but I think the biggest pro of React is the fact that the ecosystem just grew so much, and the packages that came along are so phenomenal, whether that's React Query for server state management with caching, to Zustand, a great client-side state manager, and also Tailwind came into the game, because React only used like CSS modules and just styling inside the what's it called, a JSX component, right? So amazing packages really saved React, in my opinion. So for that reason, it goes to the B tier list as good. Next up, we have Vue, which essentially is kind of a combination of the two, to be honest. You basically generate one file here. That's a Vue file, and you add your styling, you add your HTML and logic in here, and all in one place. It's kind of like Angular, where it's all batteries included, so it has a routing system going, it has a state manager, it has animations baked into it and stuff like that, so that's cool. But they simplified pretty much everything that Angular has when it comes to, yeah, like just writing code in general, like how declarative it is. It's much more simplified here, and I still I enjoy it. I feel like if you like Vue, you're gonna stick to Vue, but I'm not using it, but it's good. So I'm gonna put it to the seat that I wouldn't really use it, because it still feels like there's more excitement going on in some of these meta frameworks that we see these days. So these are the top 3 OG frameworks, all right? So we have to keep that in mind. Cool. Which should we pick next? Which one should we? Let's go Svelte, because Svelte is the evolution of all of these 3. And what Svelte essentially did different from Vue and React is they essentially got rid of the shadow DOM. Not the shadow DOM, sorry, the virtual DOM. So if you don't know what a virtual DOM is, essentially we're working with the DOM, right? We are making updates to the DOM, whether that's changing a button, a counter, or whatever. We're updating the goddamn data, right? But a virtual DOM is what React used, and Vue is you essentially make a copy of your DOM, and then you do your changes within that virtual DOM, that copy of the DOM, and then you somehow try to merge the two together to minimize rendering. So, because one of the big issues is that sometimes you might re-render loads of parts of your code that you wouldn't necessarily want to. So what a virtual DOM tried to mitigate is to literally reduce the number of renders in the DOM. But the problem is you're creating a virtual copy of it, so it's gonna kill your performance quite a bit, and it's gonna consume loads more memory. So that was kind of the disadvantage of it, and people complain loads about it. And whenever you wanted to work directly with the DOM, it was quite annoying because you couldn't really work. So you have to do the refs and all of this crap, right? But Svelte got rid of it, which makes it really performant and really good to work with and fun to work with. Not only that, the code is quite similar to vanilla JavaScript, I feel like, in my opinion, and it just feels like going back in time a little bit in like 2014, where you'd write your HTML, CSS, and JavaScript, and you just have fun with it. So it has all of that jazz associated to it, which I really like. Not only that, when the code gets compiled in the end, you're just left with like a vanilla JavaScript bundle, a really small vanilla JavaScript bundle, which is super nice. So it's fantastic. The downsides of Svelte is that the ecosystem is just so young. So yeah, you're not really gonna like implementing even off. I know was quite a struggle when I worked with Svelte. Like with React, I had next off and it just like worked, right? And they had support for Svelte as well, but that took me a while to get it set up, and then I had just loads of issues with it. So I'm gonna put it to A. That's the only reason I'm not putting it to S tier, is because it's not mature enough and the ecosystem needs to grow more. But well done to the team. Good job. This fucking squirrel on the list. Where am I even supposed to put this? Let's put it to D. Avoid Amber. If you see the squirrel, don't fucking look at it in the eyes, because look at it. Jeez. Yeah, so this was one of the OG frameworks before React and Vue and all this jazz. It was Amber and Knockout. It follows like an old MVC model. It's very slow. It doesn't have server-side rendering support, so I just probably skip it. And probably the modern toolings and packages that you have these days are not gonna work with this. So just toss it in the bin. All right, what is this here? Look, it looks clickable. Oh, I've been hiding something from you. A secret framework. I should probably change the background color of this. There we go. Next.js. Now, if you know me, I love Next.js. I'm really excited about the future of it. And that's the reason why I'm building the full stack course update on it, which by the way is coming out very soon, so stay up to date on the channel. We're going to be using Next version 13.2, which is fantastic. But what do I love about Next? So Next, you can imagine, is like an extension of React, right? They built it on top of React, but they got loads of stuff right that React didn't necessarily do right, or just built new stuff on top of it. So one thing about it is it has native server component support. So now what you can do is just make a component, and I can make my database fetching in there without any issues. And then boom, I'm done. I don't need to write backend code. I can just make a component, have all my logic in there, do my backend stuff in there, check for user potentially on the backend. And it's just fantastic. Like just having to rethink the model of like how you build out full stack apps. Next lets you do it in such a fast way because everything is there ready to be used. So it's battery included plus. And all the fantastic features it also has, like API routes with middleware, and then you have you can easily hook up fonts from Google just with like one line of code. You also get the support, of course, of every other React package that exists in the ecosystem, like 10stack, right? And pretty much everything else. Not only that, it lets you do client-side components as well if you want interactivity. So you could have a page that's rendered on the server, but also have like a, I don't know, add to cart button that's interactive, and it does some cool stuff. Okay, I don't know what cool stuff, but it does it. I promise. You can also do SSG, which is static site generation, with it, which essentially means, let's say you're fetching data from like a news website, right? It would fetch the data, render it out on the screen, cool. But when you're pushing the code up on the internet, on build time, it would fetch the API request, and essentially it would just render out the HTML for you, and that's it. So it would actually create a new page for you, and then when you visit the website, it's not gonna go and fetch it again from the API. You're just gonna be left with the static content. So it's just the flexibility that it has is just fantastic, and that's easy baby. Nuxt is kind of like the same version as Next is for Vue, but with some of the features, right? Or quite a couple of the features that Next has. So for that reason, it's gonna be better. I'm gonna put it up to the good Actually, it's pretty good. It's good. Let's not be too generous here, okay? Cool. Oh, and as for Remix, Remix, they pretty much like copied each other quite a bit, right? Next and Remix. I didn't add it to the list, but it's one of those things, like if you prefer Remix, it's gonna be here in the S tier list anyway. So it's either one. Okay, next up we have Solid. What the hell is Solid? Well, if you look at it online, it's pretty much gonna look like React, and you know, when you see that it's React, your first instinct is gonna be to run anyway, but please don't, because Solid is quite cool. It's quite solid, actually. What they essentially did was they fixed loads of shit that React got wrong. They got rid of the virtual DOM. They simplified everything pretty much. You don't even use class names, you just say class like you normally would. Even hooking up a ref is really easy because, again, there's no virtual DOMs. You're working essentially directly with the DOM. It's super performant, it's super fast. It uses signals as well for managing your application state, which makes it really easy and simple. And you don't have that issue whereas you'd have in React where it would re-render essentially a full component. Solid does some weird magic in the background where it would memorize the value of a piece of state and just update that piece of state without re-rendering the rest of the component. So it's magical. It's really cool. It's still new. It's still kind of, there's not that much about it. I think it's been around for like a year or so. I'm debating like if it's an A or S. I think it's S because it is fantastic. I know they've been working on it for like 5 years as well. I'm hopeful that it's gonna catch up more because it's really nice. So when would I choose this over this then? Because it's React on both sides, right? I'd opt for Next if I wanted to build a website that would potentially require some SSR and some SEO. So certain pages that would have that. But also medium level of interactivity, for example, like an e-commerce website, right? So something like that where I still need some SEO and some SSR rendering, but I'd also want to make it quite interactive. Okay, so that's where I'd opt for Next. For Solid, I opt for if I needed full-on interactivity. Very fast, very responsive, easy to manage the data, easy to manage the updates. So something like Notion, right, where it's highly interactable. Goddamn. Or maybe like a user dashboard, right, where you have loads of moving pieces and data. So something like that, I'd go for Solid then. Next up, we have Astro. So this kind of goes into this debate here again. Astro is fantastic. Astro essentially allows you to build out these multi-page applications that are heavy on HTML content, right? HTML-rich content. So you can imagine stuff like blogs and like news articles, right? News websites. Yeah, stuff like that where you just have loads of HTML, loads of... That's it. That's all you have. But with the potential of sprinkling in some interactivity, very minimal interactivity, right? They use islands for that. Astro, what is it called? Astro Islands? Anyway, so you can imagine like on a blog website, you'd have like a comment section, right? So you could still add interactivity, but the main focus is the content. So I'm gonna put it up to the S tier because I love the way it looks. I love how easy it is to work with it. It's just fantastic. And it also gives you the flexibility to use any of the frameworks with it. So if you want to use Astro and add Solid on top of it, you can. You can use it with Svelte, Vue, React, Angular, maybe not. What the fucking Angular? yeah, it's fantastic. I'm gonna make tutorials on all of these up here. Solid, Astro, maybe Svelte, and we'll see. We'll see. Next up, we have these icons. I don't even know what they mean. Which one is this one? Lit? Is this lit? This is lit. So this is made by Google, and essentially what lit is it allows you to make web components easier than you normally do, because working with the web components API is a nightmare. So essentially the idea is that you'd make these reusable components, web components that you can use anywhere. So if you want to stick it into a React code base, you can do that. If you want to stick it into a Svelte code base, you can do that. I'm not really interested in it, so I wouldn't really use it, but people that are excited about web components, y'all weird, but I love you, and I appreciate you actually trying, because this boy is lazy, and I don't want to make any sense of it. But thank you for trying. Okay, moving on. What is this one? Quick? Is this quick? What does quick do again? I forgot. Oh, okay. So quick is this weird thing, right? It is quick as well, which is great. But what they try to do essentially is some voodoo magic where they try to skip the hydration process. So you're building out your app, right? And your server is gonna serve just the static HTML. So let me give you an example. Hold on. Let me tell you something. Next. All right. How does it work? What's the magic behind it? Well, essentially what happens is it's giving you the HTML from the server, right? It generates you like the button, the nav, whatever, all that shit, right? It's giving it to you on the front end. Cool. Once you have that, it also sends like a wee bundle.js, so like a JavaScript bundle file. And once it gets rendered out on the screen, the HTML, then the JavaScript is going to hydrate the page to add like the interactivity to it. And then you have like a full-on working application, right? So what Quick allows you to do is they'll just send you back. They'll do this weird magic. I don't know how it works exactly. I haven't looked that much into it. But it like serializes the JavaScript somehow, and it like stringifies it in your HTML, so you only get back like a HTML, and once you click on something, it like runs that serialized JavaScript in the HTML somehow and adds the interactivity as soon as you click on it. It's weird. I don't know how it works, but it's crazy cool. It's crazy cool, and for that reason, I don't know how to rate this because it's new and it could be like a top S tier, like who knows where it's gonna evolve to, or it could be a total avoid. So I'm gonna put it up to A because I like the idea and it looks really cool. And last but not least is Alpine. What the hell is that? I'm really hoping this is Alpine. So Alpine is kind of like jQuery, like a modern version of jQuery. What they allow you to do is essentially write these, it's kind of like writing utility classes but in JavaScript. So you could imagine it being like a Tailwind version, but with JavaScript. So when would I ever use this? If I'm just making like a simple website and I'm just gonna pop in a HTML and CSS, I'm gonna probably just do Alpine to add that interactivity to it. Again, it's just another different alternative out there that you can look at. It's great, it looks great, it's very simple and easy to pick up as well. So I'm gonna put it to good because I don't feel like it matches these guys here and all the features they have because it's quite crazy, but it's a good thing and I would use it in certain situations. So that's the list. Let me know your list down in the comments below. I'm really interested to see how you would rate these. And yeah, let me know if you want to see more of this stuff. And I love you all, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace out, homeboy. A-Town.